April 1945, Okinawa. A young Japanese pilot sits alone in his barracks. He is 22 years old. Tomorrow morning, he will climb into a plane loaded with explosives. He will not return. In his hands, he holds a pen and paper. His final letter home. Dear Mother, please forgive me for being an unworthy son. His hand trembles, not from cold, from something else entirely. In the West, we call them Kamikaze. Divine wind. Fanatics who eagerly died for their emperor, but the letters they left behind tell a very different story. A story of young men who loved poetry and philosophy, who dreamed of becoming teachers, doctors, writers. A story of pressure, propaganda, and impossible choices. This is not what you learned in history class. The question is simple. Did they want to die, or were they forced? The answer will change everything you thought you knew about war. Let us begin. October 1944, the Philippines. Japan is losing the war badly. The American fleet is enormous. Hundreds of ships, thousands of planes, industrial might that Japan cannot match. Japanese pilots are being shot down faster than they can be trained. Veterans are dead. Replacements have barely learned to fly. Vice Admiral Takejiro Onishi faces an impossible situation. His solution is radical, desperate, unthinkable. Instead of trying to hit enemy ships with bombs, why not turn the planes themselves into bombs? One pilot, one plane, one ship, a guaranteed hit. He gathers 23 young pilots, all barely out of training. He asks for volunteers. Every single hand goes up, at least. That is the official story. The first kamikaze unit is born. They call it the Special Attack Force, Tokotai. Within months, thousands will follow. But here is what the propaganda never told you. When those 23 pilots raised their hands, they were not alone in a room making a free choice. They were surrounded by commanding officers, by peers, by the weight of a culture that made refusal impossible. One pilot, Lieutenant Yukio Seki, was asked to lead the first mission. He closed his eyes, lowered his head, thought for 10 seconds. Then he said yes. But later, in private, he told a journalist something very different. Japan's future is bleak if it is forced to kill one of its best pilots. I am not going on this mission for the emperor or for the empire. I am going because I was ordered to. These words were never published during the war. The answer reveals the darkest aspects of wartime Japan. First, there was the paper. Officers would gather pilots and hand out blank sheets. Write your name, they said. If you volunteer, draw a circle above it. If you decline, draw a triangle. Simple enough. A free choice. Except everyone could see what everyone else was writing. One survivor, Kazuo Odachi, remembered that moment. Some pilots tried to draw triangles, to say no, but the pressure was overwhelming, the shame unbearable. One by one, the triangles became circles. Second, there was the culture. For generations, Japanese soldiers had been taught that capture was worse than death, that dying for the emperor was the highest honor. Families were told their sons would become gods, enshrined at Yasukuni, worshipped forever. Propaganda posters showed smiling pilots. Newspaper articles celebrated their sacrifice. Songs glorified their bravery. How do you say no to that? How do you tell your mother, your father, your village that you chose to live when others chose to die? Third, there was the threat. Some pilots were told directly, volunteer or your family will suffer. In a society where collective punishment was common, this was not an empty threat. One pilot wrote in his diary, I am going because I have no choice, but I want you to know I wanted to live. These are not the words of a fanatic. These are the words of a young man trapped by forces beyond his control. But the letters reveal everything. Over 4,000 Japanese pilots died in kamikaze attacks. Nearly all of them left letters behind. For decades, these letters were hidden, censored, sanitized by the military. Only the patriotic parts were published. But in recent years, scholars have gained access to the uncensored versions. What they found shattered the myth of the eager suicide bomber. Listen to what they actually wrote. Second Lieutenant Uehara, age 22, wrote this the night before his mission. Tomorrow, one believer in democracy will leave this world. He may look lonely, but his heart is filled with satisfaction. Democracy, not the emperor, not the empire. He was a university student. He had read Kant, Hegel, Marx. He believed in individual freedom, and yet he flew to his death. Another pilot, Sasaki Hachiro, wrote in his diary, "What is patriotism? The killing of millions of people and depriving billions of people of basic human freedom? These are not the words of a mindless fanatic. These are the words of a thinking, questioning, suffering human being." The student soldiers were especially conflicted. In late 1943, the Japanese military ended draft deferments for university students. Suddenly, the intellectual elite of Japan, young men studying literature, philosophy, law, were pulled from their classrooms and sent to war. Many of these students became kamikaze pilots. They were different from the career military men. They questioned, they doubted, they wrote. One student soldier, Irokawa Daikichi, survived the war. Years later, he shared what those final days were like. "We tried to live with 120% intensity rather than waiting for death. We read and read, trying to understand why we had to die in our early 20s. We felt the clock ticking away towards our death, every sound of the clock shortening our lives." These men took Descartes as their motto. I think, therefore I am. And yet they flew into American ships. Professor Emiko Onuki Tierney spent years studying their diaries. Her conclusion was devastating. A significant number of the kamikaze were university students who were drafted and forced to volunteer for this desperate military operation. Forced to volunteer. Think about those words. The most heartbreaking letters were written to mothers. Flight Petty Officer Nobutaka Inoue was 18 years old. The night before his mission, he wrote, "Dear father and mother, please excuse this hastily written letter. I sincerely thank you for taking care of me until this, my 18th year. I also at last have joined the Special Attack Corps, an airman's highest honor. I am sorry that recently I have not been able to send you news, but this also is unavoidable for military reasons. My heart is full of gratitude not only to you who have taken care of me until now, but also to the senior officers and my friends." He was 18, a teenager. Another pilot wrote to his infant daughter, a baby he would never see grow up. "Motoko, when you grow up and want to know about me, ask your mother. I want to see you grow up to be a splendid bride. But even if I die without your knowing me, you must not grieve. When you get older and want to see me, come to Kudan and pray with all your heart, and my face will appear before you." These letters break your heart. They are not the words of fanatics eager to die. They are the words of sons, brothers, fathers, husbands, men who wanted to live. But not everyone went willingly to their deaths. Some pilots found ways to resist. They reported mechanical problems, engine trouble, navigation errors, anything to delay the inevitable. One survivor recalled how pilots would sit in their planes on the runway, secretly hoping the mission would be canceled. Others took off, flew toward the target, and then simply crashed into the sea. Not into an American ship, into the empty ocean. Suicide, yes, but not murder. Some historians believe hundreds of pilots chose this path. A final act of defiance that no one would ever know about. We will never know their names. But perhaps the most haunting stories come from the pilots who returned. Yes, some kamikaze pilots came back. Mechanical failures, bad weather, unable to find targets. They landed alive. And then what? Some were sent out again, and again, and again. Kazuo Odachi flew 9 kamikaze missions. 9 times he took off expecting to die. 9 times something brought him back. He is one of the last living kamikaze pilots, now in his 90s. When asked about those days, he does not speak of glory or honor. He speaks of terror, of the faces of his friends who did not return, of the guilt of being alive. Other pilots who returned were not so fortunate. Some officers considered them cowards, failures. One pilot who returned was beaten by his commanding officer. Another was told that his family would be informed of his disgrace. The pressure to die was relentless. In the final months of the war, Japan created a new weapon, the Oka cherry blossom. It was a rocket-powered bomb with a cockpit, no wheels, no way to land. The pilot would be dropped from a larger aircraft, ignite the rockets, and guide himself into a target at over 500 miles per hour. There was no possibility of return, no mechanical excuse, no getting lost. The youngest Oka pilot was Yasuo Tanaka. He was 16 years old. He died on May 11th, 1945. 16. In America, 16-year-olds were going to high school dances. In Japan, they were becoming human missiles. What drove them to this? Some historians blame the culture, the Bushido code, the samurai tradition. But this is too simple. The Kamikaze were not samurai. They were modern young men. Many rejected Japanese militarism. Many admired Western democracy. And yet, they flew. Others blame the emperor, the divine figure who demanded their lives. But the diaries show something surprising. Many pilots rarely mentioned the emperor at all. They wrote about their mothers, their girlfriends, their books. They quoted Thomas Mann and Romain Rolland, Beethoven and Goethe. These were not medieval warriors. They were 20th century intellectuals. Perhaps the truest answer is the simplest one. They were trapped by a military machine that gave them no choice, trapped by a society that made refusal impossible, trapped by a war that their leaders had already lost but refused to end. When the only options are death with honor or life with unbearable shame, death becomes the easier choice. This is not heroism. This is tragedy. August 6th, 1945, Hiroshima. August 9th, Nagasaki. August 15th, Japan surrendered. The war is over. Thousands of kamikaze pilots are still alive, waiting for missions that will never come. One survivor described the moment of surrender. We did not know whether to feel relief or despair. Some pilots wept. Some celebrated in secret. Others felt a strange emptiness. They had prepared themselves to die. Now they had to learn to live. In the decades since, Japan has struggled with the memory of the kamikaze. At Yasukuni Shrine, they are honored as heroes, gods who died for their country. At peace museums, they are mourned as victims, young men sacrificed by their leaders' madness. Both narratives are true, and both are incomplete. The real kamikaze were neither fanatics nor victims. They were human beings, complicated, contradictory, afraid. They loved their families. They questioned their government. They wanted to live. And yet, they flew. In their letters, we find something universal: the love of a son for his mother, the dreams of a young man who will never grow old, the desperate hope that somehow their deaths will mean something. One pilot wrote this: "I am going to die, not because I want to, not because I believe in this war, but because if I do not, someone else will have to go in my place, and I cannot live knowing I sent another man to die for me." This is not blind obedience. This is love. Twisted, tragic, impossible love for family, for friends, for the men standing beside them. Today, we use the word kamikaze casually: a reckless driver, a desperate business strategy, anyone taking a foolish risk. But those young men were not reckless. They were trapped. And their letters remind us of something we must never forget. Behind every statistic, every historical footnote, every military strategy, there were human beings. Sons who wrote to their mothers, husbands who begged their wives to remarry, fathers who would never hold their children. The next time you hear the word kamikaze, remember them, not as fanatics, not as weapons, as young men who wanted to live. And ask yourself one question: what would you have done if your country called, if your family's honor was at stake, if saying no meant shame worse than death. What would you have chosen? The letters give us their answer. Now we must find our own.